Kurt doesn't make it. If anything happens to Kurt, we riot. The pacing for these episodes is so good. Okay, we're gonna get into some things. So I gotta say, spoilers ahead, spoilers ahoy. There they are on the horizon, because we are about to talk about X-Men 97, Tolerance is Extinction, Part 1. Which did some things that I was like, oh, that's so smart. Can I just say, I just need to say that I feel like all of the ways that we have played with these comic book storylines and the way that they're interwoven. I love how some people are talking about this and literally saying it's better than the comics. It's true though. Some of the ways that these storylines are interpreted and woven together, it makes like more sense than the comics. Okay, where do I want to start with this? I mean, I think I got to start with the big thing, which is that we are getting basically E is for zero tolerance. This perfect blend of E is for Extinction and the Operation Zero Tolerance plots intertwined in such a way that honestly, I feel like as much as I love Cassandra Nova, and I do love Cassandra Nova, I feel like Bastion in the role of the person seeing that, you know, if we continue down this path, humans will become extinct. And actually, humans are at risk here. So we have to protect that by balancing the scales, introduce Operation Zero Tolerance. And I mean balancing the scales. Basically, in the future, making mutants your workhorses. So, yeah, it's not a great look. But at the same time, it's coming from this fear of extinction, and where the extinction is not actually standing for mutants like most people think it does, and E is for Extinction. It actually stands for the humans. That's why Cassandra Nova gets involved. She sees this trend, and it's the same thing for Bastion here. He's filling in that role, and filling in that role beautifully. It just makes so much sense. We also get a reworked Bastion origin in this that I gotta say I loved. I think it's so fascinating how they tweaked it, especially when you have a character that so many people are familiar with from the comics. So we think we know we're going with this villain, and then they're like, you do, but also you kind of don't. So instead of Bastion basically being Nimrod in this reality, the origin story is tweaked a bit that his dad basically gets infected with, you know, this blob that came from the future that is basically a part of Nimrod. So the idea is that when Sebastian was conceived, instead of being adopted, he is actually just part Sentinel. He's actually the next evolution of Sentinel, if you want. Speaking of Sentinels, we got a lot of sleeper Sentinels here. We got a lot of Prime Sentinels activating. I was not expecting it to get so Prime Sentinel-y so quick, but I love that it did. This was like a really great ramp up, but one that didn't feel too fast. And I gotta say, you know, although we also know Magneto was right here, Duck was also right, because Duck actually called out that Trish was gonna be a Sentinel. Of course, being alone with Beast, I also was like, I feel this coming. Yeah, that would be probably where we go next. And it was where we go next. And I gotta say, I feel bad for Hank. I feel like Hank has been getting his butt whooped lately in this series. But you know who wasn't getting his butt whooped this episode? Sunspot. Sunspot actually had a really great moment. I'm sure the Sunspot fans everywhere rejoice that Bobby actually kind of gets to do something for a change, as opposed to just kind of being there and reacting to stuff, as he's the new person in the fold. So Sunspot's been practicing in the danger room, and when he and Jubilee are attacked, which also shout outs to giving Jubilee her more current costume with them going shopping. I love that. So fun. Sunspot is able to sort of fly around and activate his powers, and I gotta say, he is exactly what I would imagine. He just feels like he is so powerful, even while still being new to learning how to use his powers, which I think is, yeah, that's basically what I would expect from Sunspot. We also need to talk about Sunspot's mom, though. Sunspot's mom is like, I don't know. I don't want to say like worst mom of the year award, because I do think she is trying, but I just mean when you come in and you're like, these people are trying to kill me, and also I'm your son, and then your mom is like, well, they said that they're not going to kill you, so I'm just going to trust them. Also, now they're going to like put you in basically, you know, power dampening collars so that you can't actually use your powers. I'd be like, maybe don't do that. Maybe that's your son. I can't with Sunspot's mom. I'm on Team Jubilee for this. I feel like I'm looking at his mom like, why? Why would you do this? So let me know where you stand. Are you more understanding of her plight, or are you with me and Jubilee and you're like, nah, this is not okay? It really is not okay. You know who else obviously gets a really cool moment other than Sunspot? You know who doesn't actually get a moment before we get to this epic point that I cannot wait to discuss with you? Storm and Bishop still waiting. There was a storm in this episode, but there was not the storm. And Duck and I were both watching it thinking like, oh wait, is the storm gonna be, and then Storm will come in? No, that's not what happened, guys. Storm did not come in. It was pretty disappointing, but that's all right. That's all right. I'm sure we're getting Storm next episode. We also didn't get any Bishop in this episode. I've been waiting. I don't know how many reviews in a row I've been asking for Bishop to show back up. But, you know, we did get a lot of awesome Nightcrawler moments in this episode. Hence why I said we must protect Kurt. We must protect the elf. He's so good. So Kurt not only gets, once again, every time he opens his mouth, it's just wisdom after wisdom after wisdom with Kurt. So not only does he get this great speech where he talks to Jean about what family means and how they're like blood is blood, but family is a choice. And how when he was born to Mystique, Mystique didn't accept him, but then when he met Rogue chose to have his back just like he chose to have her back. And also him coming in with 3 swords, using his tail to also sword fight and his hands to defend Rogue, teaming up with Wolverine, so it's just blades a-flying everywhere, was not something that I knew I needed in my life, but I needed that fight in my life. It was so good. Also, the animation in this episode is still so crisp. It's so phenomenal. I really loved Kurt teleporting with Wolverine, that sense. And then we also obviously get at the end when Xavier comes in, which of course Xavier's in now. What a great time to show up. It's like, man, it would have been great if Xavier was here. And then he's like, well, I'm here now. Is this a good time? It's like, not really. We could have used you a couple episodes ago, to be honest. But I love how he reaches out to his X-Men and they all show up around him. It was just so great. So awesome. And then, of course, we did get a little peek at Storm there because she's one of the heads, of course, he's reaching out to her. And going back to this idea of family as well, and, you know, your family being a choice and kind of, you know, those X-Men vibes of it is a found family. So cute. Jean does get that little pep talk from Kurt about how her memories that she has, which are Maddie's, which I love that they clarified this because there was a huge debate, I feel like, online as to if Jean, like, knew everything or not. And I was of the mindset that I thought that she was confused about what her memories were because it's all, even though she wasn't there for it, she has Maddie's memories, which also is what ends up happening in the comics, but in a more convoluted way through her and Maddie having this epic psychic fight, and then basically Maddie's trying to take Jean down with her by linking their 2 minds. So instead, it's more implied that the whole time that Maddie's been around, Jean has still been psionically linked to her, and they've always kind of had this link. Which also gives me some ideas for maybe how Maddie might still be alive, actually, within Jean. But that's just a theory. I don't know about that. But it does mean that Jean also has the memories of caring for little baby Nathan. And so she feels like his mom, even though he doesn't accept her as his mom. And we get these really awesome Jean being a mom moments with Cable, where he's like, why are you being a mom with me? This is so weird. But Jean is kind of just accepting and embracing the fact that she does have these memories. And to her, he is like her son because her and Maddie were linked. I hope we get Maddie back because I'd love to see some like Jean, Maddie, like just being sisters and being cute together. That's something that I feel like we never really get to see in the comics with those characters. And it would be kind of nice because, yeah, they don't really have to be at odds with each other. Or, you know, they could be at odds with each other in like maybe a fun sister way, as sometimes happens with sisters. Overall, we just get a lot of epic Summers family moments. We get ex-Porsche car chase, which I did sort of see the preview that Beau shared on socials about that, but I didn't fully watch it. I just saw him talking about how it was like bond mixed with the X-Men, and I thought that was so cool. And I saw like a little bit of it, and then I scrolled past because I was like, oh, I don't want to watch. I wanted to like experience it in the episode, but I was excited we were going to get that. I just love the Summers family together. They're so weird. They're such a weird family. They're so complicated, and yet whenever they're together, it really does feel like, in a weird way, like they have a family dynamic that feels very honest. And I feel sometimes when they're talking to each other or teaming up, you just are like, man, this is kind of like my family, even though it's nothing like my family, because this family is time displaced and weird. And, you know, Jean didn't give birth to Cable, but she's also like psionically kind of his mom. It's a fun time. It's great. And also the still unresolved tension, I feel like, between Cable and his dad, Scott. They really need to have like a father-son chat and like work some things out, but hopefully we'll get there before the end of the season. Someone that doesn't get a lot to do this episode, doesn't get to run around with her family, although does get to, you know, have her brother protecting her, is Rogue. Rogue obviously is now in a coma, which is how you handle this. It wouldn't be an X-Men story to me if Rogue didn't end up in a coma at some point. We got to put her in a coma because, like I said, you know, she's just so powerful. Sometimes you do have to write her out. I love that we got Bright Eyes, and in that episode, Rogue really got to be just really powerful and just a powerhouse. But of course, she had to be taken out because she is just kind of too powerful. And it's funny that I said that in the last episode review, and then that is where we ended up going kind of anyways. But you know what? They at least gave her a power moment. I understand that sometimes we kind of got to put her to bed. It also means that we got that really cute family moment sort of between her and Kurt, with him protecting her, and also just with him talking about his connection to Rogue and why she matters so much to him. It also just fits with the story. So I'm fine with it, but I just wanted to comment on, yeah, it is pretty typical for Rogue to sometimes be in a coma. We also get a couple fun there's a few references to different mutants in this, but a couple that stood out to me that I just wanted to shout out is Silver Samurai just being there. Silver Samurai just showing up. I was very happy that Silver Samurai was there. I thought that was cool. I love Silver Samurai, and I just think he doesn't get enough love. There's also a little wink over to Blink when Bastion talks about how mutants could replace humans in the workforce, and how teleporters would be better cab drivers basically than humans because they could get you there in a blink. And I just thought that was fun because I just actually recorded a really awesome episode that's going to be on Prashant's channel. I'll put a link down if people want to check it out. We're talking about the Blink card for Marvel Snap, which is going to be coming out soon. And we just did a little bit of a deep dive into Blink and her history, and talking about the card and how it could apply, and how some of the history might apply to the card or might not in terms of her abilities in Marvel Snap. So definitely go check that out, but I just thought that was cool. Overall, I think this whole idea of mutants replacing humans in the workforce was also interesting because I feel like in a modern context, it almost makes you understand the humans a little bit more, because I think we're kind of seeing that as well with, you know, AI and technology, and the idea of, you know, robots, will they come in and take work away from humans, and what will that look like, and how will that change everything, and maybe make it so that, you know, people will not be employed, and then what do we do? So this idea of losing jobs to something that's more advanced than you, or something that's more powerful than you, it just felt like an interesting parallel to draw to kind of, I don't know, I mean, obviously Bastion is an evil guy, but it just allows you to kind of get a little glimpse into what could be somewhat of a reasonable explanation for the behavior. I mean, there's really no excuse for Genosha. Sorry, Bastion, I can't let you get away with that one, but you hear what I'm saying here. It's a cool parallel, and I liked it. I really love this idea of how people experience Genosha. When it comes to the speech that we get from Val in this episode, she gives this speech of talking about how she felt when it happened, and it ultimately drives her to release Magneto because she feels so terrible for what happened on Genosha. But it's kind of more than that. It's like she feels terrible also for just how she reacted to it. She talks about this idea of these terrible events happening, and although, you know, you're feeling scared and it's horrifying, at the same time, there's a part of you that kind of feels unfazed. You kind of get this sense of deja vu, as though, like, yeah, well, that is what happens, and you kind of get almost complicit with it, which is like, Yeah, so gross and icky, but man, it feels just too true. That whole speech, I was tearing up. It just made me think of how we live in a world where I feel like when minorities put themselves out there, there's always this fear of, oh, well, it's probably gonna go bad in some way, because that's what we expect. Like, we expect people to kind of be terrible to us, or for something terrible to happen. I mean, even just when I did my Beau DeMayo is back video and did the response to sort of the statement that he had made talking about his influence for the show, where it came from, that was very personal, and I went into some of sort of my personal things and talking about, you know, queerness and all of that stuff. Even I was like, I feel scared because I don't know how this will go, and you kind of expect the hate to come at you. And so that just like really hit, I feel like, a chord in me. And especially when you think about it in a greater scheme, I guess, as to how that can apply to multiple things in our real world. Wow, that is a heavy speech. It was really good. It was a really good speech. I feel like it fit in really well, and it added, I mean, another dimension to Val, but also just another dimension to the whole event and people's reaction to it in the show. And I mean, I think it makes sense that it ends with her saying, you know, Magneto was right. And Magneto, after being released, just releasing a mass EMP, which I think at first I was wondering, is he going to reverse the poles, which we've seen, I think, in Earth X. Duck, I think, was talking about how it could be ultimatum. Ultimately, I think that was just a mass EMP, but it is true what B said. He basically did start a war because people are going to see that as a threat. And it is good that we have Xavier back, because I think we're going to need him, guys. We're going to be, I don't know where we're going to go next, but I don't think it's going to be all sunshine and roses. That's what I'm going to say. What an episode. What an episode. I am wondering where the little bit of future tech that infected Bastion's father came from, or when. I mean, I know it came from the future, but was it in One Man's Worth when Nimrod is like in the past and like Bishop has to go deal with that and then like everything gets changed? I don't know. Or is it just, it could be from anywhere. It could be from any time. It might not be from anywhere specific, but I was just wondering if people had thoughts or theories on that. I was kind of looking it up and trying to like go back through older stuff to figure that out, but I don't really have a great theory for it. That's kind of the best I got. Although it really doesn't matter. It could be from any time. But I wonder if it's going to connect to something else. We still haven't seen Apocalypse yet. And I am wondering where he's going to show up or when he's going to show up. Are we going to go to the future? I hope so. Because I'd really like to see how Bishop's doing. And I wonder if Forge is also going to be with Storm when they reconvene. I hope so. Because I feel like Forge needs some redemption a little bit. I feel like Forge has had a rough go in this season. So I guess we'll see where we go next. I am very excited to see where we head. I don't have any major theories. Mostly I'm just really enjoying the ride, to be honest with you. So I hope you are as well. Join me as we continue on. And thank you so much, as always, for watching this review and taking some time to just chat X-Men with me. I really appreciate it. I love X-Men. And I love, honestly, talking and engaging with you guys in the comments. It's been so amazing, this experience. I don't want it to end. We only have 2 episodes left, and I'm not ready. This is like Krakoa all over again. I don't want it to end. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one. Let me know your thoughts, and until next time, stay nerdy, friends.